everybody. It is week one. This is your orientation to editing for the web. I am Emily Ray. I am your course director. If you're on campus here with me, we know each other pretty well, but if we are online, this might be the first time you've had me as an instructor. I've been at Full Sail for 6 years now. I've worked in a number of different degree programs, and I'm very passionate about this material. I like to start off some of my talks or lectures with a question, and this one will be, who wants to be a web developer in the room? Dylan, maybe, kind of. He's like, doesn't want it enough to say it out loud, but I'm getting like a little bit of like a head nod or something. Yeah, just other people making eyes at me, not really committing to the idea. The reason why I ask this is because if you want to be a web developer as your end job, you're in the wrong program. Because web development is a very complex discipline that houses a whole bunch of sub-disciplines. And it's not something that I can teach you in its full scope in 4 short weeks that we have together. And so if it's something that you know you want to be the focus of your career, you're only going to get a small sampling of web design and development in this course. And it's going to be specifically targeted toward best practices and techniques for developing content in an interactive medium, right? So one of the things I like to do at the start of every month is just to go over the objectives of the course. Now this is super dry, right? Like this is probably stuff that, you know, your eyes will glaze over. But for me as an instructor, I think that it's important in the beginning of the month to go over like, what are the points that I want to hit with you, right? So like by the end of the course, these are the things that you guys will be able to do. The first one is identify the 4 phases of the web development process and the main tasks associated with each. That means that if you guys get involved in developing a website for a client or a friend, you will know the proper steps to walk through in order to get a successful product. You will analyze a target audience to determine demographic data, create user personas, and develop an ideal site visitor profile. That means that you're going to learn about the target audience that you're building a site for so that you can create a site that best meets their needs. You will evaluate the features of popular content management systems such as Wix or Weebly or WordPress or Squarespace or Muse for their usefulness and relevancy to a given website development scenario. That means when you're going to develop a site for a client or a friend, you will look at what are your tools that you can use, which one is best suited for the needs of the project. You will develop strategic web copy and audiovisual assets that adhere to best practices for creating content for an online interactive medium. And basically that means that you're going to be creating content for the web. And you're going to be doing so understanding that what you're creating is in a medium that people interact with, right? It's not a static thing. People make choices about how to absorb, to view, to interact with the content that you share online. You will create a simple functional website using a CMS that meets both the end user and business needs of a given website development scenario. So you're going to create a website for a fictitious client this month that meets the needs of their target audience and the business themselves. And you're going to build the structure of a personal portfolio website that you will revisit and refine in Portfolio 3 with me next month, right? So these are our high-level goals for moving through this course together. Everything that we will be doing is to make sure that you can do all of these things by the end of the month. All right, what would an orientation be without talk of expectations, right? So here they are, and they're the same for online students as they are for campus students, although, you know, a little bit different. The first one is to show up. If you're on campus with me, we meet on Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 5 in this classroom unless otherwise indicated, right? We do have a special event that we're going to attend on Wednesday together. The details of that are in your class messaging thread. But otherwise, this is our schedule for the month. If you're online, showing up means making sure that you're checking your messages, that you are poking through and reading and absorbing everything, all of the resources that are provided online to make sure you understand what's being asked of you. Participate means obviously do your homework, but to come to class and to the discussions with your thoughts and to basically engage in the community that we're creating here in the classroom, right? And then last but not least, ask questions, obviously, of things that are confusing or need clarification, but also you guys ask questions about how is this relevant to me and what it is that I want to do in my life, right? So if you're not sure, ask me. Whether or not you want to be a web designer, we all create content that we put online all the time, whether it's social media or blogs or your own personal portfolio sites. We are all constantly creating content to share online. All right, so you have a course textbook. It's called Web Design for Dummies. Please do not be offended by the title of the book. You are not a dummy, but you're likely not also a web developer. Or a web developer in training. You guys are media strategists and you have a diverse background in a lot of different disciplines. This book is a great resource for someone to get a little bit of beginner's information in a lot of different areas. It's available online on Creative Edge. The reading has been broken up for by weeks for you in the orientation and FSO. This is the only time you're ever going to hear me mention the book because that is supplemental to what we do in the classroom. I point this out. I make sure to highlight where you can find the chapters that you should be reading. But other than that, it's up to you. In 4 short weeks, that's not a lot of time to share a whole bunch of information about a really broad topic. So doing the reading is doing your part to be a participant in your own learning, to get better at this thing, right? As an instructor, I can't just open up your heads and pour it on in there. There's a certain amount of personal responsibility that you guys need to take in order to get some good foundational knowledge to make better choices about the things that you create and share online. And this book will help you get there. Course activities. Now, by this point, you've been in MCBS, about 9-10 months or so. What are we looking at? 9, so this is your 9th month. And so some of these things, the way that I'm going to describe them, you might have heard before. We have a very threaded curriculum, which means you'll see certain elements carried through from class to class. But I want to tell you what these activities mean within the context of editing for the web. So exploration activities. These are the activities that you see at the beginning of the week. They are designed to introduce you to a concept, technique, or topic in a fun, sort of risk-free way. They are an absolute A activity, which means if you follow the directions and you put in proper critical thinking and effort, and you hit all of the requirements as stated, you're going to get 100%. If you partially engage with the activity, partially complete the deliverable as directed in the assignment, you will get partial credit. By that I mean 50%, right? 50% is better than no percent, but it is still a failing grade. And if you don't engage at all, then you'll just get a 0 for that. But really, it's just supposed to be kind of an easy, fun thing to get a few ideas and to, introduce you to a few ideas at the start of the week. Dylan, did you have a question?
To go warm my windows up for my car?
Yep, go ahead. All right. Next up are the analysis activities. This is your midweek assignment, right? In other MCBS classes, you might have seen this take the form of a writing assignment. You're not going to do quote-unquote writing assignments in this class, right? An analysis activity is where you see how that concept or technique that you learned earlier in the week is being applied in real-world situations, right? So let's say in the beginning of the week you learn about wireframes or mock-ups or target audience analysis. Your analysis will be to go and look at examples of how that is working in the real world, right? Case studies perhaps. With these analysis activities, I have you create a video review. Right? So I might say, for this fictitious business that you're going to be creating a website for, I want you to go and take a look at 3 competitor websites, and I want you to do a video review of those sites. Now, in that review, I certainly expect you to be working from a script and or notes. I don't want any kind of like 9-minute video of you touring me around a site going, derp. Can't really think of what to say. I want your comments to be insightful, but brief and engaging. Because even though this isn't a video class, you might be creating a video, and I expect it to display best practices for that medium, right? And so keep in mind, anytime that you're creating something, to be applying the cumulative knowledge that you have about media. Projects, this is what's due on Sunday night. This is your opportunity to show me what you know. You are introduced to some ideas and topics at the beginning of the week, then you analyze how that's being done by other people, and then in the project you show me how you would do it, right? But how you would do it at this point is based on what you saw other people doing, what you were introduced to in the beginning of the week, and what you are reading in your textbook. Does that make sense? So show me what you know, but have that be based on what you're learning. Integrated learning activities are supplemental classroom activities that only apply to campus students. And so on Wednesday, as part of going to this Full Sail on-air series, we will be engaging in integrated learning activities then. For you guys on campus, we're going to be going to 2 lectures that day. One of them is specifically related to web design, and the other one's specifically related to graphic design. So this is going to count as your integrated learning activity for both web and graphic design on the same day, right? So it's a requirement for Jacob's class as well. Late policy. In this class, we follow the MCBS policy, which is you can earn up to half credit for a missed assignment for up to 48 hours past the deadline, right? So you don't even need to tell me why it's late. If you submit it within that 48-hour window, you can earn up to half credit for that, right? I've had several times where students will say, oh, I was having this trouble with this thing, fill in the blank for whatever the excuse is. Can I turn this in tomorrow? You absolutely can turn it in tomorrow. You don't even have to ask me. In fact, I would rather you just turn it in, right? Because if you ask me, can I turn this in tomorrow? Then I'm going to have to receive that email, reply to that email, and then at that point you're going to engage and finish the activity. It would be smarter and show more motivation on your part to just turn it in when you say that you're going to turn it in, which is tomorrow, right? So up to 50% for 48 hours past the missed deadline. But do you know what I like more than giving you 50% for a late assignment? Stacy.
Giving you 100% for an on-time assignment?
I love giving you 100% for an on-time assignment. That is absolute. But what else, Dylan?
You love giving extensions.
I love giving a student an extension when they positively and proactively reach out before the deadline, right? Things come up in life. It happens for all of us all of the time. These deadlines that I create for you are arbitrary. Arbitrary means I make them up. There is some wiggle room here. But as you saw at the beginning of this lecture, we have a lot to cover in 4 short weeks. So those deadlines are designed to keep us on task for what we have to do. But ultimately, does it make that much different if, come Sunday night, you're not able to turn in your work to the best of your ability, and it would really be helpful if you could turn it in on Monday, it really doesn't matter that much to me. I would rather you put more effort and turn in something that is smarter and shows, a more true application of what you're learning than some sort of rush, crappy job, right? So please reach out proactively if you have an issue or you need something, because part of my job as your instructor is also just to support you in this learning process, right? The other thing is that I believe that another part of my job as an instructor here is to help foster behaviors in you that will serve you in your professional lives beyond MCBS, right? So certainly if you were at a job and your boss gave you a task that had a deadline that you knew that you were not going to make, or that you would do a crappy job of the deliverable, you would not let that deadline come and go without saying something to your boss to the effect of, hey boss, I'm having a little bit of issue with this. I just want to let you know that I want to do a good job on this, so I'm wondering if I can get a little bit more time. That's all I'm asking for, is just communication that's professional and that will serve you in the best interest of the course, but also when you leave here. Does that make sense? All right, lectures, you're listening to one now, but if you miss one, I archive them. As you can see, we're doing a recording right now, and so you will be responsible for the material that you missed, and it will be provided in a recorded archive, but you need to listen to it or watch it within 48 hours of the missed lecture, because this material is timely. Right? And so if I'm talking about an assignment or giving tips or tricks, you will want to get that information before you attempt that assignment, right? So within 48 hours. Phones here in the class, of course you can have them, but when I'm recording a lecture like this, I would just prefer that you keep them on silent so as to not kind of throw me off my game. And then food, for you guys who are here in the classroom, of course you can have it, but please just, pack it in, pack it out. You're all adults here. I fully have never had a problem with this, but I just wanted to say, it's mid-afternoon. We could probably all use a cookie and a coffee or something at this point. So if you need that, have at it. Do you guys have any questions about any of this sort of housekeeping material that was shared? I'm getting a few head shakes, so I'm thinking no. I love it when students don't have questions, because that makes me think that I'm really clear, but it could just be that you haven't thought of any questions yet. But if you do, let me know. Reply to that class messaging thread and put your question out there, because a lot of times if you have a question, maybe the answer would benefit the entire group. So with that, thank you for your attention to this micro lecture, and we'll move on to the next one.